Let us know when the recording is started.
It's
Try to look smarter.
Yeah, it's time. Hi everyone. My name is Kate, and today I wanted to give you a high-level overview of the new Stripe API. I recently worked with it for one of our clients to integrate a donation form with Apple Pay payments, and we used Stripe for this purpose. But this talk isn't dedicated to Apple Pay integration because actually the API is quite generic and can be used for most of payment types, like credit cards, even for bank accounts in case of Stripe. So for those who didn't work with Stripe API before, it was very straightforward. And as far as I know, one of key priorities of Stripe at the beginning was to give a great developer experience for their customers to be able to easily integrate with Stripe as opposite to some other payment gateways that might be very hard to integrate with. So in case of Stripe, API has been always very straightforward. And the initial API called charges worked like this on a high level. Red stands for front end, for client side, and blue is for backend or server or Drupal if you talk in decoupled Drupal terms. So this is the flow. First, clients collects payment details in whatever way. It can be your own form, it can be Stripe's form, it doesn't matter. You will not need to send it to the backend. You just need to collect this payment details somewhere in your front-end application and pass this to Stripe.js using the JavaScript tooling so that Stripe does some processing and generates token. Then to complete this payment, you need to pass this token to your server. And on server, you obviously have properly configured Stripe SDK, backend SDK, and you execute single command to complete this payment. So it was first client and then backend to verify, complete this payment. So what happened with SCA? Obviously, again, for those who didn't hear about SCA, it's additional, it stands for Secure Customer Authentication. In the past, we had 3D Secure version 1, which sometimes appeared on the form, sometimes didn't appear, and vendors companies kind of decided when they want or didn't want to integrate with it. Now, everyone must be compatible with SCA, otherwise in certain regions the payment processing will be basically illegal and banks will not approve those payments. And obviously many payment providers had to rethink their APIs to be able to provide developers support for SCA. One option would be to ask developers to do everything. Guys, you figure out when you need to show challenge, you figure out what to do with it, and we don't care. In case of Stripe, guys rethought the original API and built new API called payment intents. And this is on a high level again what is going on here. So again, everything starts from collecting payment details on your form. And again, it can be whatever way. Your own form, Stripe built-in form, some helpers, maybe if you use React, some React libraries, but doesn't matter how you get this payment details. And then you've got this payment details, and then you ask your server, your backend, to create payment intent. And this payment intent means that your backend verified that this customer really can pay this amount with this currency to this account, Stripe account. It doesn't charge anything, it just verifies it. And as a result, it returns secret, how is it called? Sorry, 1 second. I can't see part of my slides. Is it intent secret key or secret what? Can you just read the second item for me, guys? I can't see it because of Zoom interface.
Server creates payment intent and sends back intent secret. Secret, this one.
Oh, intent secret, okay. So we created payment intent. We didn't complete payment. We didn't do anything. We kind of generated unique per client server-side secret and returned it back to the client. So now Stripe knows two things. First of all, it knows payment details, and then it knows that our organization, our backend really wants this payment to go ahead. And the rest is done by Stripe.js. Stripe.js receives this unique per intent secret and processes payment. And this is one line of code from developer perspective, but under the hood, Stripe will figure out what needs to be done. Is any SCA challenge involved, and trigger everything that is needed and complete payment. Or obviously, it also can return error if something went wrong. So in the new flow, the payment is completed on the front end by Stripe.js. So the flow is a little bit like reversed compared to the previous one. We first say on the backend that we want this payment to go ahead, and then client finalizes this payment using Stripe.js, and Stripe.js under the hood obviously will use Stripe backend APIs and so forth. So we are in a situation when, for some reason, payment can be successful, but our backend will not be notified because it's not backend who finalizes the payment. So question here is, how will the server know that payment is successful if payment was processed, finalized on the front end? So the first obvious option is to inform the server from the client application. Just wait for Stripe to complete everything and then make additional API requests to your backend and say, now this payment is finalized. In case of involved SCA challenges, it may not always work, because like if something went completely wrong and the user was redirected to another site, I don't know, bank site or something, there is small chance that user will not return to your original website, or user will just close the site before we initiated API request. So the second, that's why there are two other options. The second option is to configure Stripe webhook. You just go to Stripe dashboard and say, every time when payment intent is successful, please send this information to this URL. So your backend will be notified as soon as payment is successful, and it will happen almost in real time without your end users waiting for anything on their interface. They will see thank you page immediately. And finally, the poor man integration might be that you just scan all payment intents on your backend by cron, check their status, and if they were successful, then you close your orders or do whatever you need. So this is something that changed compared to the previous version of API. So a little bit about payment intent under the hood. So payment intent is a kind of container that basically contains some necessary information about this described payment process, as well as some statuses. And during payment intent lifecycle, payment intent can walk through these statuses. It starts with requires payment method. It means that backend just created this intent, but we didn't collect any payment details yet. Requires confirmation means that we collected payment details, but customer hasn't confirmed that this intent can go ahead. In terms of SCA, it means that some additional challenge required. Actually, requires action means that SCA check wasn't like that SCA check requires some extra actions from the client, like SMS or bank additional bank validation or something. Processing means that payment intent is processing, Stripe is doing its job. Cancelled, if for some reason customer cancelled payment process, or we can cancel process on backend for some reason. Requires capture is additional state. We can optionally say that we don't want to process payment immediately, but instead we want to finalize it a little bit later. For this purpose, we can add additional flag. And in this case, payment intent will be in requires capture state. Succeed, obviously, when everything went well. If failed, when something went wrong. When you integrate with Stripe.js, you don't need to like manually move payment intents from one state from another. It's kind of happens under the hood as you call different methods, but it's good to like understand the whole workflow, the whole life cycle. When you create a payment intent on the backend, the only two required fields are amount and currency. It's just for you to understand that it's not rocket science. You just confirm that this amount with this currency is going to be paid, and you return some identifier back to client so Stripe can finalize payment. And now I wanted to show you a few samples. The first one will be, one second. So submit the payment to Stripe from the client. This is interesting part. Let me zoom in a bit. As simple as that. We have certain button in our interface, doesn't matter what kind of button. In this case, it will be probably Stripe's own button. And when click happens, we call only one method, handle card payment. And everything that I explained to you, it will just happen under the hood. And if error happened, then we will show error. If everything is good, then we can make additional call to the backend, as I mentioned, and show success message, thank you page, whatever. As simple as that. Another example is for payment request button. It's something that I used for Apple Pay integration. It's a little bit different because we don't have like form details on the on our web application. We receive it from a remote tool. That's why example a little bit different, and event is a little bit different. So we have payment button. It can receive payment method event. Then we confirm payment intent using lower level API. And then again, this is something unrelated to Stripe at all. You just say that for the Apple Pay or Google Pay dialog that something failed or something succeeded. And again, you call this handle card payment that will do everything that is needed under the hood. As you can see, it's a promise. So yeah, it's promise. So you can wait until it's resolved successfully or with error, and you can proceed with something that you need. So I mentioned that there is magic method handle card payment that does everything for you. If you check Stripe documentation about recommended ways to, like actually all possible ways to integrate with SCA, you will see option 1 as their hosted checkout, when you basically don't control checkout flow on your side, you delegate everything to Stripe, you will be redirected to Stripe domain, and there you will complete payment. It's quick solution, but sometimes you may need more like flexibilities and you want to control payment flow on your side. Pre-built model is something that will work if you use handle card payment or handle card action or handle card setup API methods. This is something that I actually explained on this in this talk. Pre-built model means that Stripe will do its best to show a pop-up with SCA challenge or any additional challenge within your interface. And then when everything is done, it will just return you successful result. And you don't need to know if anything happened at all in terms of additional validation or something. Full page redirect and customized UI are options that are more advanced only if you need for some reason. But in most cases, you want either fully delegate payment with checkout or use API methods, handle card payment, and similar. If you want to save the card but don't immediately charge it, for example, if you process recurring payments and you have some trial period, then you use handle card setup instead of handle card payment. So basically, the difference is only one method. You call this method, but in case of subscriptions, you call another method. But the API is exactly the same and behavior is exactly the same. If you want to integrate it with Drupal, for classic Drupal, there is a model commerce Stripe, and its recent version already uses Stripe intents. It's integrated with Drupal commerce checkout modules, and it collects credit card details and processes them on Drupal in Drupal, and then creates intents and so on. If you integrate with decoupled architecture, then on the backend you may use commerce decoupled checkout plus commerce decoupled Stripe modules. Commerce decoupled Stripe will manage everything related to creating intents, sending back client secret, and then confirm an order when everything went well. And on front end, sorry about typo and Stripe name. On the front end, it's Stripe.js. If you use React, you can pick React Stripe Elements library. Its recent version, again, compatible with intents, and all API is available for you to experiment. Like, it can be any look and feel, it can be any flow. The things that we discussed there, like this is the very last bit of your checkout flow when you're actually ready to complete payment. You know your amount, currency, and you just process it while showing some, I don't know, low order. Yeah, that's basically it. Do you guys have any questions? Let me fix the typo.
No, great talk, Kate. Thanks. Yeah, it looks very good.
Cool. And this
Stripe is our new Cloudflare in terms of the developer experience, right? Sort of a service that you just enjoy using.
Yeah, they're very good. They're very good in building APIs, but with this kind of this intents and all this stuff, I found it a little bit more involved compared to previous version. It turned out to be very straightforward, but I think they wrote too much documentation. Like, there are, I don't know, 20 different pages about basically the same thing. And initially I was scared that it's something very, very complicated. And I know sometimes people may be scared by this and choose, for example, hosted checkout option because it seems more straightforward. You don't need to read all this documentation. And my motivation to give this talk was to actually calm developers down. It's not that bad. It's actually one API call. You just will be in a better position if you understand everything that happens under the hood. So it's not like completely black box and magic for you, but developer experience is quite good, I would say.
Cool. Yep. I think that's from my end. Look forward to see it in the real client projects. Well, actually, we have seen it a little bit. We haven't launched it yet.
So in this case, thank you very much, guys, and see you later.
Thanks, Steve.
Cheers.
Bye.